Greetings, fellow gorehounds, and welcome back to a blood splattered vlog. I'm the Horror Guru.
And I'm Count Jackula.
And today we're going to talk about VHS Beyond, the latest entry in the VHS found footage horror anthology series, with this entry's gimmick being that all the entries have something to do with science fiction.
Oh, it's not because it's beyond your bunghole?
It's not just beyond your bunghole, man. I'm sorry to tell you. Sorry to inform you. Just like every other time we've talked about the VHS franchise, I have got the Wikipedia entry opened up right here so I can remember what each segment was so that we can talk about them one by one. We will talk about them one by one first without spoilers, and then in the spoiler section, we'll go into the spoilers naturally.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this, first off. I thought this was a really fun entry. There's so many VHS movies now. I think the next one's going to be VHS 8. So
what, they're just calling it VHS 8?
Yeah, they're just numbering it again.
Yeah.
The next one's going to be VHS 8, and I can no longer tell what my favorite one is, what my least favorite one is, because there's just so many entries at this point.
Yeah. I'm surprised they're not going to call it VHS Super 8 or something like that.
I mean, I think that would probably stick them to the gimmick of being on Super 8, right?
That could be a problem,
So let's dig into the individual segments. The wraparound segment, Abduction Adduction, it was directed and written by Cheel, who has a background in docuseries. He did the Cursed film series for Shudder, which this is a Shudder movie too. It's going to be available on Shudder, so check it out there. This is probably the more forgettable part of the movie, the wraparound, because what the wraparound is designed to be, all the footage in the movie has been taped over some broadcast of weird paranormal
ancient aliens.
Did
they really exist? Bullshit or not?
Where they're talking about random abduction cases. So you're constantly cutting into these interludes of different abduction cases, in the middle of it. So it's not like you're seeing it from beginning to end.
Yeah.
It's more about setting the mood for the movie than actually being a really interesting segment with characters and action and shit.
Yeah. With that said, it is actually a very lovingly faithful reaction of one of those docu shows.
To the point where they actually get some of those guys that appear on the docu shows to do little complete bullshit talking head interviews for their fake abduction cases. There is some cool stuff there. It's just the most forgettable because it's not it's a story like all the other segments are.
Yeah, it's more just talking about the phenomenon of alien abduction stories.
So the next segment, Stork, directed by Jordan Downey, who is the director of Thanksgiving and Thanksgiving 3. There is no Thanksgiving 2. This segment sees a special unit of the police called Warden. It's an acronym. I don't know what it stands for, but they're called Warden, who hunt monsters. And they are called to this house, and they're supposed to basically go in and clear out the zombies, but they get far more than they bargained for when they enter this house.
Yeah.
This segment kind of feels like a first-person shooter version of Resident Evil.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
It's the most action-packed segment, with the exception of one other segment we'll talk about later. I really dug this segment. It even has a final big boss, but we'll talk about that in the spoiler section, because that's the big reveal at the end of the segment. Is the big boss of this house of zombies. And naturally, it will have some sort of science fiction element to that big boss, because zombies aren't the most science fiction-y thing.
Yeah. Zombies are kind of their own thing. It's they're kind of supernatural, kind of.
They kind of exist in this nebulous zone where they could be science fiction, but they could not be, but we don't necessarily immediately associate them with science fiction.
Yeah.
So there is something way more science fiction-y at the center of this house, but we'll talk about that in the spoiler section. But I loved this segment.
Yeah.
It starts off with a bang. It's the kind of segment you expect a VHS movie to end on instead of begin on.
Yeah.
Definitely sets the tone that this is going to be a wild entry in the VHS franchise. The next segment, Dream Girl, directed by Virat, who I have not seen any of the movies they've made, but this movie is about two members of the paparazzi in India who are trying to get photos from a famous pop star that happens to be in town shooting a music video, and they find out that the famous pop star is not quite human. What is she exactly? Wait for the spoiler section. We'll talk about about that. But this segment kind of turns into almost like a monster movie where they're like running from her and getting mutilated one by one. It's a pretty action-packed sequence when it finally gets to that point. The build-up is pretty decent, but this is my least favorite segment in the entire movie, and that's not because of the content. It's because of the way it's edited. This segment has the frustrating problem of a really bad combination of extreme shaky cam and really fast-paced editing. And the combination means you often get only small glimpses of what's actually going on. I just kind of wished more scenes actually just like lingered on the gore a little bit instead of constantly quick cutting away to the next thing, because it started to give me a headache while I was watching it.
Yeah, I can see that.
It does have some really cool things to it though, like the actual Bollywood song that they made for that segment is really catchy and fun. And I also just like how much fun the actress playing the pop star was having.
Yeah.
When she's going on the murder spree, the mutilation spree. Okay, so the next segment we got here, Live and Let Dive by Justin Martinez, who is a member of Team Radio Silence, but he's going solo for this particular segment. So this segment sees a group of friends for one of the friends, I believe 30th birthday or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
And they are going on a skydiving trip. In the middle of their skydiving trip, an alien invasion occurs. Yeah. This is probably the second most action-packed segment next to the first one.
Yeah.
You obviously got the action of skydiving while planes and aliens are fighting overhead. Aliens are literally jumping down on their bodies while they're falling from the sky. But there's also a segment after the main character we're following lands where the movie keeps going. The segment keeps going.
Yeah. It's pretty impressive that it did just keep going.
That segment reminded me a lot of the movie Extraterrestrial that we watched way back when. Yeah. Where it's just a really over-the-top alien invasion segment.
Yeah.
And the design for the aliens is really fucking cool. It doesn't just look like a Cloverfield clone. It's got its own unique design. And I love that you're never quite sure what the alien's gonna do because it has some surprise powers.
Yeah.
This segment also is the one where you feel probably the most for the main character because
nobody deserves what fucking happened.
Not only did he not even want to be doing this for his birthday, he also loses a lot of loved ones in the process of this. It's pretty fucking gnarly and brutal. I really like this segment. This segment was great. All right, so the next segment, probably the most controversial segment based on online discourse, Fur Babies, directed and written by Christian and Justin Long. That Justin Long.
Oh, okay.
Tusk.
That's what okay, good. All right.
Justin Long.
Why was it so controversial?
Okay, this one's controversial because a lot of people argue it doesn't match the theme of the movie, but I disagree. If you think the theme of the movie is purely aliens, then yes, this one is a departure from most of the other segments.
It is the only one that doesn't deal with aliens.
But to be fair, the Indian one was also a departure in that regard.
That's a good point. Yeah.
She is not an alien in that one. So that one's also a departure. But this one is still a weird science fiction one. What this one deals with is it deals with animal activists, and they are basically trying to crack down on this one woman and her weird animal TikTok channel, and some weird body horror shit happens that we'll talk about in the spoiler section. This is actually my personal favorite segment of this movie because I'm a big fan of fucked up body horror, and this is pure fucked up body horror.
Yeah, well, it's also it's science fiction in that it is mad science.
Yeah, it is mad science. She is doing some mad science shit. There's a reason why the movie I cited when I referred to Justin Long as opposed to any other movie he's in was Tusk, because it's probably the biggest influence on this segment, and I'll leave it at that. Final segment is probably the most subdued segment of the entire movie. This one was directed by Kate Siegel and written by her husband, Mike Flanagan. This segment sees a woman in the desert. An alien lands. And she sneaks on...
This was my favorite.
Yes. She sneaks onto an alien craft in the desert when it lands. Interesting things happen after that.
Yeah, this one is probably the most science fiction one.
Yeah, absolutely. This is science fiction from start to finish.
Yeah.
Everything about it is science fiction, not just the content of it, but also like the themes that it's dealing with and stuff.
Yeah, this feels like a particularly depressing, like the Larry Niven story.
Exactly,
like
exactly.
That, you know?
And on the surface, it's like the most quiet, the most meditative segment.
Yeah.
But it probably has the most fucked up thing that happens to a character.
Oh, yeah.
And that's including fur babies.
Yeah.
We'll talk about exactly what that is in the spoiler section. It's really messed up, but holy shit.
This section could very easily have been written by like a Larry Niven or Harlan Ellison.
I would agree.
Kate Siegel and Mike Flanagan, who do a lot of King adaptations, it reminded me a bit of The Jaunt.
I could see that. I could totally see that. I believe this is the first thing Kate Siegel has directed herself, and she does a really good job.
It was good.
I kind of hope she comes back for more VHS segments, because all the other segments were really fun and action-packed, but this was probably the most interesting and creative of them, and I really dug it. Obviously, we then go back to the wraparound, Abduction Adduction, which culminates in a interesting segment where, like, we watch an alien, like, invade someone's bedroom.
Yeah, and like implant an egg.
Yeah, it's a very fucked up moment.
Yeah.
And the movie ends on a high note with that. So yeah, VHS Beyond, I like all the segments, even my least favorite segment. Like I said, my only problem with that segment is just the editing. What would you say was your favorite and least favorite?
Oh, my favorite was Stowaway.
Stowaway? Hell yeah.
Stowaway was absolutely my favorite. The weakest one I felt was Abduction Adduction.
Yeah, fair. The wraparound. That makes sense.
Wraparound was the weakest. As far as like where this sits in the hierarchy of VHS films, it's hard to say, but I didn't like it as much as the previous two.
That's fair. The previous two were really good.
Yeah. The previous two were really excellent.
That's exactly the weird, like, trap my brain gets caught into when I try to think about, like, well, how would I rank this with the other movies? I really loved this one, but I also really loved the last one. And I also really loved the one before that. And the one before that, too, was pretty good, too. And so, like, I have no idea where to put them. Every single movie they've done since they've come back has just been knocking it out of the park. And I feel like I'll only be able to properly rank them in a few years with hindsight.
Yeah, I agree.
I just know that I want this franchise to keep going.
It sits in that same spot that like Paranormal Activity used to.
Yeah. Where you get like a yearly one.
Yeah.
And it's kind of an event every time it happens, except instead of being like a theater experience, it's a home viewing experience.
Yeah.
Now that it has moved to basically being a Shudder property.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you want to watch this movie, it is currently available on Shudder. And with that said, my fellow Gorehounds, let us move on to the spoilers so we can talk about all those bits that we refrained from talking about in this non-spoiler section. So Stork, the first segment with Warden, the police unit that hunts monsters. So it turns out the reason why there are zombies infesting this weird building is because an alien crashed there, an alien bird creature.
Yeah.
That like sucks out people's brains, turns them into zombies, and then feeds the brains into these babies that have been abducted. I'm assuming because the babies are going to turn into like more creatures like it.
Yeah, something. Yeah.
That's the other thing I forgot to mention earlier. Like, this whole segment was kicked off because, like, babies were abducted, which is why they were originally, like, looking around this area. Oh, that's why it's a bird.
Yeah.
Because babies.
Babies, yeah.
Stork.
Yeah.
I just now put that together.
Oh.
My mind is blown. Bird Alien is the final boss that they have to confront at the end of this, and the Bird Alien is awesome.
Yeah.
The Bird Alien is the Ratma of this movie.
It is.
Hail Stork. Okay, so Dream Girl. The girl turns out to be an android.
Yeah.
She is a robot, and she malfunctions and goes on a killing spree after realizing that she has sentience, essentially. That she does not have to be controlled by her manager, and that she is, in fact, a goddess of her own.
Yeah.
And so she goes on a murder spree and kills everyone in brutal ways. Like, we're talking like ripping people apart and shit. It's fucking gnarly. I liked that, and I also liked the commentary of what it's doing about like pop stars and like AI and like
pop star's AI and the already kind of like manufactured nature of being a pop star.
And
we
like
get to that,
the fact that the main characters are paparazzi means you really don't feel bad for them when they fucking get like
you really
their
don't,
comeuppance, because they're
really
kind
don't.
of like leeches, right? I'm kind of on her side by the end of this movie.
Yeah, by the end of that, you're just sort of like, yeah, kill everybody.
Yeah, kill them all. Screw them. That segment was probably like the TikTok intended segment.
Oh yeah, definitely.
They have that awesome little music video in the middle of it that's probably going to go really well on TikTok.
Yeah.
Like the Megan dance did.
Yeah.
Also dealing with Killer Robot. Interesting how
Yeah.
that's like a thing now.
Yep.
We got Live and Let Dive. There's not too much to spoil about this. Once you already know it's about an alien invasion happening while someone's skydiving, most of the things that happen in it you can pretty much guess. He has friends that go kersplats.
Yeah.
He has friends that are killed and mutilated by the alien. The real surprises in this are when like the alien has like lasers shoot out of its face.
Yeah.
Or the moment where the main character manages to escape into a truck only to be attacked by the aliens who seemingly let him go, only for them to abduct him into their fucking spaceship.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Whatever.
That's when it started to remind me a bit of that extraterrestrial movie.
Yeah.
But he is the sole person who makes it out of that, and he only makes it out of that only to be abducted. Okay, fur babies. Let's finally
All right,
reveal
let's talk
what
about
fur babies is about. So it turns out this woman will take people, drag them down to her basement after drugging them, sew on parts of dead dogs that she once owned, and then force them to be raised like dogs. She'll put them through doggy training.
Yeah.
You have to become her fur baby and keep you in a cage and feed you like a dog. And if you react like a human, you get punished. That's just the initial horror of this segment. The final horror of this segment is when, after the initial characters get there and get turned into fur babies, their friends try to come and save them and help them, only to get mutilated by the fur babies.
Yeah. It's a vicious cycle.
And you get my favorite shot in this entire goddamn VHS movie. It's got the dog cam, but it's on one of the people that's all dogged out.
Yeah.
And they're like running around, like licking water and playing golf. This segment is dumb as shit, and it's fucked up, and it's over the top, and it very much reminds me of Tusk, but I love it.
She's a mad scientist.
Yeah, she is basically a mad scientist.
Is mad science science fiction? And the answer is sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just magic in a lab coat.
Well, like, what's often cited as one of the most pivotal science fiction stories is Frankenstein.
It's Frankenstein,
right?
yeah.
Frankenstein is actually what I would point to argue that the fur baby segment is science fiction.
Yeah.
It doesn't have, like, computers or, like, chemical beakers, but she is creating these weird body horror creatures that are her pets.
Yeah, like, it's one of those things where I think the only reason that people didn't think that it counted was because it didn't have any of those, like, classic trappings.
Yeah.
I think if there had been, like, chemical sets and, like, a Tesla coil somewhere.
Yeah, it would have fucking totally read as Frankenstein.
Yeah, they would have been like, okay, yeah, whatever, mad science.
Because like, they're not dead, but the Frankensteining of all these dog parts onto them is pretty horrifying.
Like,
What this segment feels like, even though it's in English, it reminds me a lot of, like, Mermaid in a Manhole.
Yeah.
Those types of, like, guinea pig films.
The guinea pig films?
Yeah. Like a long lost guinea pig film is what it feels like.
Human Centipede.
That's another one that the fur baby segment reminded me of. Human Centipede. You're 100% right.
Yeah.
Which, again, mad science.
Mad science.
Okay, so Stowaway. Okay, so here's the whole twist of Stowaway. She manages to sneak into this alien spaceship, so she manages to record herself on there like, hey, I get to prove the aliens are real. But wait, the spaceship takes off with her inside the spaceship. And unlike the aliens that live on this spaceship, she can't go into the cryosleep chamber thing that they use.
Yeah, because they do this thing, they have this discussion in the beginning of the segment about approaching light speed.
Yes, what it would do to the human body.
Yeah, what it would do to the human body.
And because she cannot be, she is fucking mutilated by this spaceship going into light speed. But she's not killed. And the reason why she's not killed is because on this spaceship, there are these little nanobots.
Yeah, they're like these nanobots that keep healing her.
Yeah.
But every time she is dismembered, there is a chance that it does something wrong.
Because it's used to fixing the aliens, not the human body.
Yeah, not a human body. Like, so if it's just a cut, that's simple. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
But if it tries to reattach the whole arm, things go wrong.
Or recreate the arm out of whatever's left.
whatever biomass is there.
And the thing about these aliens is that they are from a faraway place, so they're constantly going into warp speed and stopping in places and going to warp speed. So she is getting more and more mutilated.
Yeah.
Until finally she's just a fucking mass, like a mass of flesh.
Yeah, and her last words are like, please stop, and then it goes to another warp and she's mutilated again, and they start putting her back together.
It's so horrifying. And you know it's never going to stop. It's going to keep bringing her back to life.
It's going to keep happening for years. Until
the aliens like wake up and find her there.
And then just be like, hey, what would the reaction be?
I don't know.
Like, it'd be like, whoa, what the hell happened here? Or is it going to be like, yo, Bob, we need clean up in Dock 4, bring a sponge, you know?
Yeah, because it's like she's going to look like the Thing, right?
Yeah.
From fucking the Thing by the time they fucking wake up.
Yeah. And it's just like, whoa, okay. But you got to think, like, something akin to this has had to happen before.
Oh, I guarantee it's not the first time they've had a stowaway, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, or like they just left one of the chambers with one of the animals, like it fucks up, and they're like, oh man, it went kersplat.
Yep. I do like the moment where they revealed, oh, they've taken all these animals, but they look like they're in like a cryo chamber. Or something like that.
Yeah.
So some suspended animation.
Yep.
It's some great foreshadowing for what's going to be her inevitable fate.
Yeah, and so, like, you know, the comparisons to, like, stories by Harlan Ellison or Larry Niven or The Jaunt are very clear.
100%. I love this segment. Like, if Fur Babies didn't exist, it'd probably be my favorite.
Yeah. It's actually a very short one, too.
It is. The Abduction Adduction segment ends with an alien sneaking into someone's room and implanting eggs in their nose.
Yeah.
The only thing I can tell you that's a spoiler there is that you get to see, like, a camera go down the fucking person's throat, and that's how the movie ends.
Yeah, that's just basically it.
Yeah, the thing about the wraparound, like I said, it's more of a mood-setting piece than it is, like...
Yeah, it's its own narrative.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's VHS Beyond. I fucking dug it. If you like the other VHS movies, you will most likely dig this one. If you're more of a science fiction guy, then this is definitely the VHS one for you. Any final thoughts?
Oh, my final thoughts are you should go watch it. It's a good movie.
Where can we find you, Count Jackula?
Well, you can find me here at YouTube, where I stream almost every weeknight at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. What about you?
Y'all know me. I'm the Horror Guru. You can find me at the Horror Guru on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, Facebook, wherever. Just look up the Horror Guru or Blood Splattered Cinema, and I'll be there. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that notification bell so you're notified of my videos immediately upon their upload. And if you'd like to help out either of us more directly, then be sure to check out our Patreon pages. And remember, if you decide to go the Patreon route, even $1 a month can go a long way, but we will certainly accept more. And with that said, my fellow Gorehounds, if you made it this far into the video, then I want you to comment below, and be sure to comment below using the hashtag GoodBoy. Use the hashtag GoodBoy, that way I know, that way Jack knows, that way the whole world knows that you are someone's favorite fur baby. And with that said, my fellow Gorehounds, peace out, and we'll catch y'all later.